My pregnant sister demanded I give her my baby's nursery because she needed the bigger room for a real family. At the baby shower, in front of everyone, I gave her a gift bag with a cheap air mattress and a note: "Here's the extra space you deserve." She threw it, started screaming, and now my parents say I destroyed the shower. My sister screamed at me that I was selfish for decorating a nursery when she was about to have her second kid and actually needed the space. I'm 6 months pregnant. My husband and I bought our house 3 years ago specifically because it had 4 bedrooms. We've been trying for a baby for 2 years, had 1 miscarriage last year, and when we finally got pregnant again we immediately started working on the nursery. It's the smallest bedroom, but it has this perfect window that gets morning light, and we painted it this soft yellow color. I spent weeks finding the right crib, the right changing table. My husband built shelves. It was our happy place. Then my sister, who's 8 months pregnant with her second kid, came over for lunch. She's been living with our parents since her divorce last year. She has a 5-year-old son. When she saw the nursery she got really quiet and then said we needed to talk. She sat me down and told me that she and our parents had discussed it, and the family had decided I should give her my house. Not rent it. Give it to her. Because she had 2 kids and I was only having 1, so I didn't need a 4-bedroom house. She said her and her kids were real family and I was just starting out, so I didn't understand what actual parents needed. I literally laughed because I thought she was joking. She wasn't joking. She said our parents would help her with a down payment to buy us out at a fair price and we could find a nice apartment somewhere. When I said no, she started crying and said I was choosing furniture over my nephew and her unborn baby. That they deserved bedrooms and I was being selfish keeping a whole house when I didn't need it. I told her to leave. She called me a bitch and said I'd regret this. For the next month she sent me texts every few days about how cramped she was at our parents' place, how her son was asking why Auntie had such a big house and he had to share a room with Mommy. Our parents called me twice asking me to reconsider and think about family first. My dad actually said maybe we could do a trade where they gave us their old townhouse and we gave my sister our house. I hung up on him. Then came the baby shower. My mother-in-law was hosting it at her place. Beautiful setup, probably 50 people there. My sister showed up late, which was whatever, but she brought our parents and they all had these weird tight smiles. I was opening gifts. Clothes, diapers, books, all the normal stuff. Then my sister handed me this oversized gift bag with tissue paper. She was smiling so big. She said loud enough for people nearby to hear, "I got you something really special, sis. Since you care so much about having space." I pulled out the tissue paper. Inside was a deflated air mattress, the cheapest kind you get at a discount store. Still in the plastic packaging. Under it was a card. The card said, "Here's the extra space you deserve. Maybe you'll finally understand what real family means when you're sleeping on this in your overpriced house. Enjoy your selfishness." The conversations around us had started to go quiet. People were staring. My mother-in-law was frozen with a cake knife in her hand. I looked at my sister and she had this satisfied smirk like she'd just delivered the greatest comeback in history. So I smiled back. I reached into my diaper bag and pulled out an envelope I'd been carrying around for 2 weeks, ever since I'd hired a private investigator on a hunch. "Actually," I said, still smiling, "I have a gift for you too." I handed her the envelope. She looked confused but opened it in front of everyone. Inside were printed screenshots of text messages between her and my husband. Starting from 4 months ago. The same week we announced my pregnancy. Messages about how they'd been sleeping together whenever he worked late. How she was going to get me out of the house one way or another. How my husband had promised her that once I was gone, she could move in and they'd raise all the kids together. How he'd been the one to suggest she demand the house, to make me look like the bad guy so he'd have an excuse to leave me. Turns out her second baby wasn't her ex-husband's kid. The divorce timeline didn't even match up with the pregnancy if you did the math. My sister's face went completely white. She looked at my husband who was standing near the food table. He was already backing toward the door. Then she lunged at me. Literally lunged, screaming, trying to grab the papers. My mother-in-law and 2 other women had to pull her back. She was shrieking about how I ruined everything, how dare I humiliate her, this was supposed to be her moment to put me in my place. My parents were trying to calm her down but also yelling at me about airing dirty laundry. My dad actually said this is a family matter, you're making a scene. I said, no, you made this a family matter when you tried to steal my house for your daughter so she could play wife with my husband. Then I looked at my husband and told him to get the fuck out. He tried to say something but my father-in-law stepped in front of him and told him if he didn't leave in the next 30 seconds he'd personally throw him out. My sister was still screaming. Someone had already called the cops because of the noise. She tried to grab the air mattress and throw it at me but my mother-in-law caught it. The whole shower had basically dissolved into chaos. The police showed up and my sister tried to tell them I'd attacked her. Thank God 10 people immediately said that wasn't true. They escorted her and my parents out. My husband had already run to his car. I filed for divorce the next morning. Turned out my lawyer could use the affair for leverage since we live in an at-fault state. My husband's trying to claim the baby might not be his. I told him we could do a paternity test the day the baby's born, and when it comes back as his, I'm taking him for everything. My sister moved out of state with our parents to live with our aunt. She had the baby last month. Haven't spoken to any of them. But my in-laws are still saying I shouldn't have done it at the shower, that I embarrassed everyone. Some of my friends think I should have handled it privately. My cousin said the air mattress thing was tacky and I stooped to her level by playing games with the envelope. Was I wrong for doing it in front of everyone like that? So the paternity test came back yesterday. 99.9% match. My daughter is absolutely my husband's kid, which I already knew, but his lawyer was pushing for it anyway. Their entire strategy fell apart in about 5 minutes. My lawyer called his lawyer this morning and basically said we're done playing games. I get the house, full custody, child support that'll actually cover what a kid costs, and he can have supervised visitation once she's born if he even bothers to show up. His lawyer apparently didn't even argue. Just asked for 48 hours to get the paperwork signed. But that's not the real update. 3 days after the shower, my ex-husband's mother called me. Not my mother-in-law anymore, I guess, but she said she needed to tell me something and it couldn't wait. She sounded weird on the phone, kind of shaky, and asked if she could come over. When she got here, she looked like she'd aged 5 years. She sat down at my kitchen table and told me she'd been going through some of my ex's old stuff that he'd left at their house. She was packing it up to ship to whatever apartment he's hiding in now. She found a box in the back of his closet from when he was staying with them last year during our kitchen renovation. Inside the box were papers. Like, a lot of papers. Printed emails, bank statements, receipts. Turns out my ex and my sister had been planning this for almost a year. Not just the affair. The whole thing. There were emails between them from 9 months ago, right after my miscarriage, talking about how they could leverage my emotional state to get me to agree to sell the house. My sister specifically wrote that I was weak right now and it was the perfect time to start pushing the family angle. They had a whole timeline mapped out. My ex had been taking money from our joint savings, small amounts I didn't notice, and giving it to my sister. Over $11,000 total. She was supposed to use it as part of a down payment to buy the house from us, but really it was our money. He was literally stealing from me to fund their plan. The bank statements showed he'd rented an apartment 4 months ago. A 2-bedroom place across town. He'd been paying rent on it this entire time while still living with me. My sister had a key. There were emails about her going there with her son while I thought she was at our parents' place. There were even printed text messages where they joked about baby names. Turns out they'd been trying to get pregnant on purpose. My sister wanted to tie him down before I figured anything out, and he wanted her to have his kid so I'd look like the villain for keeping a baby from its sibling if I tried to get full custody. My former mother-in-law was crying while she showed me all this. She kept apologizing, saying she raised him better than this, asking how he could do this to someone he promised to love. I honestly felt worse for her than myself at that point. She left me copies of everything and said she was giving the same copies to my lawyer and keeping a set for herself. She told me she'd testify if I needed her to, that she'd tell any judge exactly what kind of man her son turned out to be. Then she hugged me and said my daughter was lucky to have me as a mother. After she left, I just sat there staring at all these papers spread across my kitchen table. Seeing it all written out like that, seeing them plan it step by step, it made the shower thing almost make sense. My sister wasn't just being entitled. She legitimately thought she was about to get everything. I called my lawyer and sent her photos of every single page. She called me back an hour later laughing, and said this was the easiest case she'd handled in years. Apparently financial fraud during marriage is a huge deal, plus evidence of premeditated alienation of affection. She said in our state I could potentially sue my sister separately for the affair. I'm not going to though. Honestly, I just want them both gone. My ex tried to call me that night. 15 times. I didn't answer. He started texting, begging me to hear his side, saying his mom didn't understand the context and I was taking things out of proportion. I blocked him on everything. He showed up at my house 2 days later and my father-in-law answered the door, told him to leave or he'd make him leave. He left. My parents called yesterday. First time since the shower. My mom said my sister had a breakdown and is in therapy now. She wanted me to know that my sister is really struggling and maybe I could find it in my heart to forgive her eventually, for the sake of the kids being cousins. I told her that her grandchild will never know my sister exists. That my daughter will grow up knowing her father is a piece of shit who chose to blow up her family before she was even born, but she'll never have to wonder if her mom protected her. And I will absolutely protect her from people like my sister. My mom started crying and said I was being cruel. I hung up. I'm 32 weeks now. Baby's healthy, I'm healthy. My ex-in-laws, they're still treating me like family. They bought the crib they'd planned to buy anyway. My former father-in-law installed a security system at my house last weekend. They're both planning to be here after the birth to help. Some people from the shower have reached out to apologize for saying I was wrong. Apparently word got around about what my ex's mom found. A few people admitted they thought I was being dramatic at first, but now they get it. I'm not holding grudges against them. They didn't have all the information. Neither did I. The air mattress is still in my garage. I keep meaning to throw it away, but every time I see it I just start laughing. Like this was her big power move. This was supposed to destroy me. I'm sitting in my house that I'm keeping. In the nursery that's finally finished. Looking at the crib my daughter will sleep in. And my sister is in another state living with our aunt, probably still telling anyone who'll listen that I'm the villain in this story. My ex's lawyer sent over the settlement papers this morning. My lawyer's reviewing them now, but she said it's basically everything we asked for. He's giving up without a fight. I won. But my cousin texted me last night and said I need to start thinking about forgiveness because holding on to anger isn't healthy for the baby. She said what I did at the shower was still wrong even if I was justified, and I'm going to regret how I handled things when my daughter asks about her family someday. That got in my head a little. I keep thinking about my daughter growing up and asking why she doesn't have an aunt or grandparents on my side. What do I even say to that? Am I going to regret this? My daughter was born 4 days ago. 7 pounds, healthy, perfect. I named her after my grandmother, the only family member who ever actually gave a shit about me. My ex showed up at the hospital anyway. I made it clear through lawyers he wasn't welcome at the birth. Supervised visitation could start when she was 6 months old if he wanted it, but he had no right to be there for delivery. The hospital had his photo, security knew not to let him up. He got in anyway. Told the front desk he was my husband and I'd changed my mind. They believed him because he still has our wedding photos on his phone and showed them as proof. By the time anyone realized what happened, he was already in my room. I was holding my daughter. First time. She was maybe 20 minutes old. And he just walked in like he owned the place. My former mother-in-law was there with me. She'd been in the delivery room, held my hand through the whole thing, cut the cord when I was too shaky to do it myself. The second she saw him, her face went hard. She stood up and got between him and the bed. He tried to go around her. Said he had a right to see his daughter, that I couldn't keep her from him, that he knew I was poisoning everyone against him, but he was still her father. His voice was doing that thing where he tried to sound reasonable, but you could hear the anger underneath. I pressed the call button. Held my daughter closer. Told him to get out. He said he wasn't leaving until he held her. That I'd manipulated his own mother into taking my side, but blood was blood and she was his child too. He actually reached for her. Got close enough that I felt his hand brush my arm. My former mother-in-law shoved him. Like fully shoved him backwards. Told him if he touched me or that baby she'd break his fucking hand herself. Security came in maybe 30 seconds later. 2 guys, both big. They got him out, but he was yelling the whole way down the hall about his rights, about how I was keeping his daughter from him, how everyone would see what kind of person I really was. The nurses were amazing. They moved me to a different room with a locked door and a security guard posted outside. One of them brought me tea and told me her ex had pulled similar shit and she understood. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking for like an hour. I filed for a protection order the next day. My lawyer had the hospital security footage, witness statements from the nurses and my former mother-in-law, everything. The judge granted it immediately. He can't come within 500 feet of me or my daughter until the custody hearing in 3 months. But that's not even the worst part. Yesterday my parents showed up at my house. Just showed up, no warning, no call. My former father-in-law was there helping with some baby-proofing stuff and he answered the door. Told them I wasn't taking visitors. My dad tried to push past him. I heard the commotion and came downstairs. My mom was crying, saying she needed to meet her granddaughter, that I couldn't keep punishing her for my sister's mistakes. My dad said I was being unreasonable and they'd driven 6 hours to see the baby. I told them they made their choice when they tried to steal my house for my sister. That they knew about the affair, the bank statements proved they discussed the plan with both of them, and I wanted nothing to do with people who'd helped destroy their own daughter's life. My mom said that wasn't fair, they didn't know about the affair, they just thought my sister needed help and I was being selfish. My dad said I was rewriting history to justify cutting them off. So I pulled out my phone and read them the emails. The ones where my sister told them about sleeping with my husband. Where my mom responded saying be careful and my dad said make sure he's serious before you get in too deep. Not telling her to stop. Not warning me. Just telling her to protect herself. My mom's face went white. She tried to say that wasn't what it looked like, that they were just trying to keep my sister safe in case my husband was lying to her. My dad said I was taking things out of context. I asked them to leave. They refused. Said they had rights as grandparents and they'd get a lawyer if they had to. My former father-in-law told them they had 10 seconds to get off my property or he'd call the police for trespassing. They left, but my dad yelled that I'd regret this, that I was destroying this family over nothing, that my daughter would grow up asking why she didn't have grandparents and it would be my fault. I had a panic attack after they left. Full on couldn't breathe, thought I was going to pass out. My former mother-in-law stayed with me and the baby while I calmed down. She kept saying I did the right thing, that protecting my daughter was the only thing that mattered. But I keep thinking about what my dad said. About my daughter asking about her family someday. About her wondering why her aunt and grandparents aren't in her life. A friend from the shower called me this morning. Said she heard my parents were trying to get grandparents' rights and I should be prepared for a legal fight. Apparently my mom's been posting on social media about being kept from her granddaughter and painting me as vindictive. People who don't know the full story are commenting supportive things. Saying grandparents deserve to know their grandkids, saying I'm being cruel, saying whatever happened between adults shouldn't affect the baby's relationship with her family. My cousin, the one who said I need to forgive, shared one of my mom's posts. Added a comment about how sad it is when new mothers let hormones make them push away people who love them. I'm sitting here with my 4-day-old daughter sleeping on my chest. She's so tiny. So perfect. And I'm supposed to let the people who helped plan my life's destruction have access to her? I'm supposed to smile and play happy family with people who chose my cheating sister over me? My former in-laws keep telling me I'm doing the right thing. My lawyer says the protection order and evidence we have makes any grandparents' rights case pretty much impossible for them to win. But every time my daughter makes a noise or moves I feel this wave of terror that someone's going to take her, that my ex or my parents are going to find a way to get to her. I haven't slept more than an hour at a time since she was born. Not just because of normal new baby stuff. Because I'm terrified. Is this what the rest of my life looks like? Always waiting for them to show up? Always wondering if they'll find a way to take her from me? Was my cousin right? Am I letting anger make decisions I'll regret when my daughter's older and asking about her family? My sister showed up at my house 3 weeks after I brought my daughter home. I was alone. My former in-laws had gone to run errands and grab groceries. I'd finally gotten my daughter down for a nap and was trying to eat something when I heard knocking. Looked through the window and there she was, standing on my porch with her baby in a carrier on her chest. I didn't open the door. Told her through the window to leave or I'd call the police. She started crying immediately. Said she just wanted to talk, that she needed me to understand, that our parents had kicked her out and she had nowhere else to go. Her baby started crying too, probably from hearing her upset. She held him up toward the window like that was supposed to make me feel something. I asked her what she thought was going to happen. If she thought showing up with a baby would make me forget she fucked my husband and tried to steal my house. She said it wasn't like that. That my ex had pursued her, told her our marriage was already over, that I was cold and distant after the miscarriage and he needed someone who understood him. She said she'd been vulnerable after her divorce and he took advantage of that. That she knew it was wrong but she'd fallen in love with him and thought we could all figure it out like adults. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Asked her if stealing from our joint account was him taking advantage of her too. If planning to kick me out of my own house was her being vulnerable. She said she never wanted to hurt me. That the house thing was supposed to be a compromise where everyone got what they needed. She actually used that word. Compromise. I told her to get off my property. She pressed her hand against the window and kept saying please, over and over. Said she was staying in her car, that our parents told her she made her bed and had to lie in it, that her ex-husband won't even talk to her now that he knows the baby isn't his. She said I was the only family she had left. I closed the curtains and called my former father-in-law. He got back in 15 minutes. She was still on the porch when he pulled up. He told her to leave. She tried to tell him the same story, about being manipulated and having nowhere to go. He said that wasn't his problem and if she wasn't gone in 2 minutes he'd call the cops himself. She left. But she sat in her car at the end of my street for hours. I could see it from the upstairs window. Just sitting there. Finally drove away when it got dark. She came back the next day. And the day after that. Never got out of the car, just parked at the end of the street where I could see her. My neighbors started asking questions. I had to explain the situation to the couple next door after they knocked to ask if everything was okay. My lawyer filed for a restraining order. Got it approved yesterday. She's not allowed within 1,000 feet of my house now. But the hearing for it was a mess. My sister showed up with her baby and no lawyer. Told the judge she was just trying to see her sister, that I'd cut off the whole family over a misunderstanding, that she was worried about me isolating myself with a newborn. She cried the whole time. Real tears, the kind that make your face go blotchy. The judge asked me to explain my side. I had to stand there holding my 3-week-old daughter and list out every detail of what my sister and my ex did. The affair, the money, the planning, everything. With her sitting right there staring at me. The judge granted the order but told me it was temporary and we'd have another hearing in 60 days to see if it needed to extend. Said family disputes were complicated and sometimes people needed space to heal but permanent separation wasn't always the answer. My sister smiled when he said that. Actually smiled. After the hearing she tried to approach me in the hallway. Security stopped her but she called out that she'd see me in 60 days, that I'd realize eventually we needed each other. That our daughters deserved to know each other. I wanted to throw up. That was 4 days ago. Yesterday I got a letter in the mail. From my ex's lawyer but not about custody. It was notifying me that my ex and my sister are planning to get married. That they wanted me to know so I could prepare our daughter for having a stepmother and stepbrother in her life. They're getting married next month. 1 month. Like this whole thing is just some romantic story and I'm the bitter ex who needs to accept their happiness. My lawyer said it doesn't change anything legally. The custody arrangement stands, the protection order stands, nothing about them getting married affects my rights. But she sounded tired when she said it. Like she knew it was going to make everything more complicated anyway. My former mother-in-law broke down when I told her. She'd been holding it together through everything, but that was apparently the limit. She kept saying she didn't raise him to be like this, that she didn't understand how her son became this person. My former father-in-law just got quiet. The scary kind of quiet. But the worst part was today. I got a message request on social media from someone I didn't know. Thought it was spam, but I opened it anyway. It was a woman around my age. She said she was my ex's girlfriend from college and she needed to tell me something. She said my ex did this before. 6 years ago, right before we got engaged. He'd been seeing someone else, told the other woman his relationship with me was basically over, started planning a future with her. The woman found out he was lying when she showed up at his apartment unexpected and I was there. She'd confronted him and he chose me, said the other woman meant nothing and he'd made a mistake. She said she'd seen my sister's social media posts about the wedding and recognized my ex in the photos. Said she felt sick when she realized he'd done the same thing to me that he tried to do to her. She apologized for not reaching out sooner, said she'd convinced herself it was a one-time thing back then, but now she wondered how many times he'd done this to how many women. I don't know what to do with that information. It doesn't change anything now, but it keeps replaying in my head. That this is just who he is. That my sister isn't special, isn't the love of his life. She's just the one who stuck around long enough for him to blow up his life completely. I haven't told anyone about the message yet. Not my lawyer, not my former in-laws. I keep opening it and rereading it, trying to figure out if it matters. My daughter is 5 weeks old. She has no idea her father is marrying her aunt. That her grandparents think I'm the villain. That her mother spends every night checking locks and security cameras because she's terrified someone's going to show up. The custody hearing is in 2 months. My ex's lawyer is already filing for joint custody and overnight visits starting at 6 months. My lawyer thinks we can fight it, but she can't promise anything. Judges like to give fathers chances even when they don't deserve them. I'm so tired. I haven't slept a full night since before my daughter was born. Every time I close my eyes I see my sister's face at that hearing, that smile when the judge said 60 days. Or I see my ex reaching for my daughter in the hospital. Or I see that woman's message telling me this is just what he does. My former mother-in-law keeps telling me to stay strong, that we'll get through this. But I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm barely holding on. What happens when they get married and start pushing for family visits? What happens if a judge decides my daughter should know her stepbrother? What happens if they have more kids together and try to make this all seem normal? How do I protect her from this? The custody hearing was yesterday. It's over. My ex didn't get joint custody. He didn't get overnights. He got supervised visitation every other Saturday for 4 hours at a neutral location with a court-appointed supervisor present. He has to pay for the supervisor. He can't bring my sister or her son to visits. The judge said maybe we'd revisit in a year depending on how things went, but she wasn't optimistic. His lawyer tried everything. Brought up me humiliating him at the baby shower, said I was alienating him from his daughter, claimed I was unstable for cutting off my entire family. My lawyer let him talk for 20 minutes and then pulled out the hospital security footage. Played it right there in the courtroom. You could hear him yelling about his rights while security dragged him out, hear me crying while holding my newborn. Then she brought up the protection order violations. Turns out my sister showing up at my house 3 times wasn't just annoying, it was legally significant since she was acting on his behalf. The emails between them planning the house theft. The bank statements showing the stolen money. Everything. The judge asked my ex directly if he had anything to say. He started crying. Real tears, the kind that make people uncomfortable. Said he'd made mistakes but he loved his daughter and just wanted to be her father. That everyone deserved a second chance. The judge said he'd had plenty of chances and made the same choice every time. Then she read out her decision and it was the best outcome my lawyer thought we could hope for. My ex's face when she said supervised visits only, I'll remember that forever. He looked at me like I'd done this to him. Like I was the one who cheated and stole and lied. His lawyer had to physically touch his arm to get him to stand when the judge dismissed us. Outside the courthouse my sister was waiting. She wasn't supposed to be there but she came anyway. Started screaming at me the second I walked out. Called me a vindictive bitch, said I was stealing her fiancé's child, that I was going to rot in hell for destroying their family. She was holding her son and screaming this in front of him. The kid was crying. Security escorted her away but she kept yelling until she was out of sight. Something about how the truth would come out, how everyone would see what I really was. My former mother-in-law was with me. She didn't say anything, just held my arm and walked me to the car. When we got in she finally spoke. Said her son was dead to her. That she tried for months to find something redeemable in what he did, but watching him in that courtroom, watching him cry for himself and not his daughter, that was it. She was done. She asked if she could still be in my life. In my daughter's life. Said she understood if I needed space from everyone connected to him, but she hoped I wouldn't punish her for his choices. I told her she's the only grandmother my daughter's ever going to know. That as far as I'm concerned she's family and nothing about that changes. She started crying then. Not sad crying, relieved crying. We sat in the parking lot for 30 minutes just breathing. My ex and my sister got married last week. I know because my cousin sent me screenshots of the social media posts. Small ceremony, just them and my parents and a few friends. My sister wore white. The photos showed her holding her son with one hand and my ex's hand with the other, both of them smiling like they'd won something. The comments were mostly supportive from people who don't know the real story. Lots of "so happy for you both" and "love wins" and shit like that. But there were a few from people who clearly knew what happened. One said homewreckers deserve each other, another said that poor baby girl. My sister deleted those ones within an hour. My parents haven't tried to contact me since the restraining order hearing. The grandparents' rights case never materialized. My lawyer thinks they realized they didn't have a leg to stand on once the judge heard everything. Or maybe they just gave up. I hope they didn't give up. I hope they think about what they lost every single day. My daughter is 4 months old now. She's sleeping better, eating well, hitting all her milestones early. She has no idea her father sees her for 4 hours every other week in a room with a stranger watching. No idea her aunt is actually her stepmother. No idea her biological grandparents chose someone else. My former in-laws are over constantly. They bought her a swing for their house so she's comfortable when she visits. They've already started a college fund. My former father-in-law built her a custom bookshelf for when she's older. They tell her stories about her grandmother she's named after, the one who actually cared. I went back to work last month. Part-time for now. It feels good to think about something other than custody and protection orders and family drama. My coworkers know the basics but nobody pushes for details. One woman whose desk is near mine told me she went through something similar 5 years ago and if I ever needed to talk, she's there. I haven't taken her up on it yet, but it's nice knowing the option exists. I started therapy 2 weeks ago. The therapist specializes in family estrangement and betrayal trauma. She says what I'm feeling is normal. That the hypervigilance and trust issues and anger are all expected responses to what happened. She thinks with time and work I'll get to a place where I'm not constantly waiting for the next disaster. I don't know if I believe her, but I'm trying. The house still feels like mine now. For a while after everything happened I'd walk through rooms and remember my sister standing there demanding I give it to her, or my ex sitting on that couch planning my life's destruction. But I've rearranged furniture, painted a few walls, made it different enough that those memories don't hit as hard. The nursery is exactly how I wanted it. Yellow walls, morning light, the crib my daughter sleeps in every night. My sister never got to touch it. My ex never got to ruin it. It's ours. Sometimes I think about that air mattress at the baby shower. About my sister's face when she handed it to me, so sure she was winning. About how quickly everything fell apart for her when I pulled out those screenshots. I still have them saved. The bank statements, the emails, the text messages, everything. My lawyer said to keep copies forever just in case. But also I think I need them as proof that I didn't imagine this. That it really happened the way I remember. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled things. If I wish I'd confronted my ex and my sister privately instead of at the shower. If I think taking the house and the custody and everything was too harsh. The answer is no. Not even a little bit. They made their choices. They planned this for a year. They stole from me, lied to me, tried to make me look crazy so they could take everything I worked for. My sister handed me that air mattress thinking she'd already won. She was wrong. My ex gets 4 hours every other Saturday with a supervisor present. My sister is married to a man who's done this before and will probably do it again. My parents lost their daughter and granddaughter over people who didn't deserve their loyalty. And me? I have my house. My daughter. My found family and the people who actually chose to stand by me. I have a life that's mine and nobody else gets to touch it. I think about my daughter growing up sometimes. About what I'll tell her when she asks about her father and her biological family. I'll tell her the truth. That some people will hurt you on purpose and call it love. That family isn't just blood. That she deserves people who choose her every single day, not just when it's convenient. I'll tell her I chose her. Always. That baby shower was 8 months ago. Feels like a lifetime. Feels like yesterday. But it's done now. The divorce is final, custody is settled, the protection orders are in place. There's nothing left to fight over. I won.